Okay, welcome back. As promised before the break, we're going to pull out the old hypothetical cards, Josh.
Oh boy, it's been so long since we played this.
It really has, and I'm kind of excited for it. I have picked out a card, so I guess let's cue the music.
Hypothetical.
I got a question.
Hypothetically speaking, of course.
I got a question.
Why?
I got a motherfucking question.
What if
I have a question for you guys.
you never know, do you? Hypothetically speaking.
I got a question.
All right, now that it is November, we're heading into Thanksgiving. I consider there are two prime times for movies being released. There's the summer movie releases, and then there's the Thanksgiving through Christmas movie releases.
Yeah, there's always been something that I've completely loved about going to the movie theater on Christmas Day and watching, whatever they have in the theater. Usually it's pretty empty, but the people that are there are pretty hardcore film people.
It won't be empty this year with Rogue One being released.
That's true. All the nerds will come out.
Yeah, I'll be there.
So will I. I mean, who am I kidding?
All right, anyways. So with that said, the card that I pulled out here for Hypotheticals is titled A Life in Film.
Oh, that is going to be my life this winter.
Probably, yes. It's going to be a snowy winter, I think, so probably me too. But I pulled out A Life in Film, and I will now read the hypothetical, Josh. And you, of course, will have to answer first, and then I'll give my input.
Here we go.
Here we go. For whatever reason, two unauthorized movies are made about your life. The first is an independently released documentary, primarily comprised of interviews with people who you know and bootleg footage from your actual life. Critics are describing the documentary as brutally honest and relentlessly fair. Meanwhile, Columbia TriStar has produced a big budget biopic of your life, casting major Hollywood stars as you and all of your acquaintances. Ooh, who would play you and who would play me, I wonder? Though the movie is based on actual events, screenwriters have taken some liberties with the facts. Critics are split on the artistic merits of this fictionalized account, but audiences love it. So, which film would you be more interested in seeing?
Well, I think the underlying question here is pretty obvious. Do you want to be well remembered or honestly remembered?
Yes, you're right. That is the main question here.
So, but there's a caveat there too, right? If it's a big blockbuster movie, there's going to be a lot more people that are going to watch it versus some low budget indie documentary that probably film nuts and the lazy Netflix browser guy will find. So maybe an eighth of the people will watch my documentary if it's lucky.
Right.
So there's also the question. Not only is there the question of do I want my life to be well represented or accurately represented, but there's also the question of do I want my life to be remembered by the most amount of people or the highest number of people, even if it's a little off.
Well, and just the curiosity too of I'm curious who would play you. What Hollywood actor would play you in a film?
Well, when I was younger, my cousins, all my cousins say I looked like David Blaine.
You're a little bit paler in complexion, but yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, I was a little. I went outside more when I was a teenager. I'll put it that way.
All right.
But as far as looks go, I would probably agree with if I tanned up or David Blaine got a little paler, I'd go with him as far as looks.
He's not an actor, though.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
As far as acting, as far as the quality of actor that I would want to portray me, I would definitely go with Adam Sandler.
Well, you get a lot of product placement money out of that for sure.
Oh, yeah, are you kidding me? I'd be rich. No, I'm talking Adam Sandler from something like Punch Drunk Love, or I even go Happy Madison in parts.
Okay. You mean Billy Madison?
Yeah, Billy Madison.
Okay.
Sorry, Happy Madison's the production company.
Right.
Why do I pick Adam Sandler? It's just because it would be unexpected, and I think that's the core of what I try to give to people I know the most is the unexpected. Something that just doesn't make sense whatsoever, and it leaves you guessing.
Who would play me is what I'm wondering.
Oh, it's easy. Chris Evans.
Chris Evans.
Yeah,
I was thinking more Chris Pratt before he got all buff.
Yeah, I think you and Chris Evans look exactly alike.
Hey, I'll take that. Hey,
Yeah,
why
I
not?
mean, you even got that nice flat chest.
Watch out, ladies.
Ooh.
All right, so back to the question is, would you prefer to have your life represented accurately or more epically, but less artistically?
Well, so right off the cuff, I'm going to want to say accurately. I'd rather be portrayed the way that I actually am. But the more I think about it, the more the thought that pops in my head becomes louder and louder. And that thought is simply, over time, my story is going to become inaccurate just by virtue of being a story. So, do I sacrifice a little bit of time being authentic do I sacrifice people seeing my story for a little extra time being authentic? Or do I just skip the authentic part and make sure that the biggest number of people see me? I don't know. And by the way, if critics are divided on my biopic that's super big and probably not completely accurate,
Yeah.
all that's going to do is drive people to actually look up the history of me and verify it.
That's a good point. I've done that with movies, biopic movies of people. I knew like Johnny Cash is the one I'm really thinking of off the top of my head. Walk the Line movie. I mean, I knew some stuff about Johnny Cash initially, but I saw that movie on Christmas, around Christmas time, actually, ironically.
Merry Christmas.
I really liked it, and it did. It made me go and actually read more factual stuff about Johnny Cash.
Yeah, I mean, it's something I'm going to refer to now called the Fox News effect, where you blow something out of proportion, and if you take it the right way, you just have an opportunity to, aim your perception at something and learn something new. But at the end of the day, if they're going to make a movie about me, I think the most important thing is that I get paid.
Right? I think the harder question on this truly would be is if the Hollywood production story of your life was made really well but got panned by critics.
Yeah, I mean that would have been a more interesting twist. But if I remember the question correctly, it was that they're
split.
divided on the artistic merit. Is that what it was?
Yeah.
But they all agree it was a good movie.
It's like the Doors movie.
There was a scene where Jim Morrison was getting a blowjob in the elevator as the elevator doors were closing.
Right.
And like all that crazy music was going on, and it was beautiful. Oliver Stone, you magman.
Right, and it's funny too because I love Oliver Stone, but that movie, that movie has some problems.
It does. It's a bag. There are good scenes in that movie, good moments, but overall, it's just a poor representation of the.
Yeah, it's kind of a poor portrayal of it. So I kind of view it like that. Yeah, it's a good question. I think both of us have this. Going back to we've joked about it before, but it's true. The 90s aesthetic in us, right? Like, must be artistically right. So by default, I usually go to that. It's like, no, I'd rather have my life portrayed artistically accurate. But then you're right. It's like, well, if I feel it's that important, which so far I don't know if my life's that important, but if I did feel my life was that important for a movie, I think I would rather have more people see it and then people that care enough go and learn more.
Exactly. But there's a larger question here, a bigger epistemological issue at hand. And that's, does all truth eventually fade into inaccuracy, or is it just with movies and people's lives?
That's a hard question. I think someone who studies history a lot of it is lost. Accuracy is lost.
So what's beneficial if accuracy is lost? Why even bother with history?
I think it's it's not so much that all accuracy is lost, it's that the small details of accuracy is lost. The overall story and the connections it makes is what's important as far as history goes.
So how does time boil that out? How does the cream rise to the top here?
I don't.
What about a moment or an event in history? What qualities does the things that don't seem to fade away, the details that are too large, to be inaccurate, right? I mean,
I think it's key decisions, and then the benefit of history is seeing the connections that it made later on, right? That's why it's so hard. Going back to George W. Bush, while I don't necessarily think history is going to look kind on him, I think it's a fair point he makes that he doesn't worry about that because it'll be up to the historians to make that. Because he's right. I mean, who knows? Maybe in 10 years, Iraq becomes a flourishing democracy, and the war in Iraq, disastrous as it was in the grand scope of history, ended up being a good idea.
Could you imagine if Iraq erected a George W. Bush statue?
After the shoe throwing incident, I doubt it, but perhaps.
Perhaps. I mean, some weird alternate universe.
But his point overall is a good one. I mean, that's kind of, they say, the benefit of history, and that's what it is. It's you can't fully judge it until enough time passes where you can see the connections that it made.
I mean, that is a very good point, and it's definitely not one to underestimate. But there's a sadness to it too. There's a forever, like the myth of Sisyphus. I think I said that right.
You did.
Pushing the rock up the hill, and you get up there, and it rolls back down, and you just have to go back down and push it back up.
Right.
And so, I mean, how as a historian, how do you get around that, or do you even think about that? Is that even an issue for you?
I guess it is and it isn't. I guess part of me is that's what I like about history, in the sense, because I always find ways to connect it to my present day. I mean, that's part of my own, I guess, intellectual arrogance as well, right? Like, how does this connect to my current time and place? But I don't know if it's so much the rock being pushed up the hill as it is just the continuous wheel of everything happening.
But you don't feel a sense of futility at all?
No, because a decision that is made today is going to affect something in the future.
Right, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about being a historian and remembering those events and accurately portraying them for future generations. I mean, as a body of work, isn't there a sense of futility to being a historian? Just kind of like there is to being a philosopher, how you can never know the capital T truth.
Yeah, that part does come into play. If you're really into history, it bothers you that there's certain things that you can't know for sure, right? Like like Alexander the Great is a good example for me. It's all the big things that Alexander the Great accomplished in the big details of his life, but you'll never know the true small details of his life. You'll never know his day to day. You'll never know if him and his mother plotted the death of his father for sure. You can only speculate. Stuff like that, yeah, it does get a little infuriating sometimes.
I mean, it definitely gets to me when I think about my philosophy issues, and I mean, even the act of being futile over this truth issue is in itself futile, because you can't even know for sure if it is futile. I mean, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, right. So, what are we going with here? Are we going with the accurate documentary portrayal that only nerds and intellectuals are going to see, or the big Hollywood biopic?
I think I'm going to sell out and do the big biopic, just because if I'm important enough to have a movie made after me about my story, I want that story to be out there. I want to make sure that everyone gets to see it. I want my nepotism and my ego to be satisfied.
I think just the medium of film makes me lean that way as well. I would rather get a lot of people in to see it, and if the story's that good, and if that many people like it, there's going to be books, and most specifically books that are more detailed about the life, that people who are really interested in it will seek it out.
While we were talking, I was trying to think of a better person to play me, And I think
Yeah.
I have it. I think it's what was his name? Vincent Gallo from Buffalo 66.
Oh, yeah, damn, that's a good pick, actually.
Yeah, that's my new guy.
Fun story about him from Buffalo 66. There was a brief period in my life when I was younger where I seriously thought about maybe becoming a pro wrestler, right? Because you know me, I'm a fairly big guy, right? I don't have the muscle definition now, but if I would have worked on it back then, and I was thinking of gimmicks that I could play, and a friend suggested to me the character from Buffalo 66, Vincent Gallo, and I was like, damn, that's a really good idea. In the end, I didn't want to do any of it, but I thought that was a great idea for a wrestling character somehow.
It would have been great, especially if you had a female manager that looked like Christina Ricci.
Yeah, I was thinking about all of that, but
Oh man, that's awesome. I love that movie, by the way.
I didn't want to join the carnival when all was said and done.
Well, have you've seen that movie lately, right? Buffalo 66.
Not since college.
Oh, really? Man, I've just watched it maybe a couple months ago. It holds up. It's still a damn good movie.
Is it? Okay. Well, I guess I'll have to put that on the list. I think I'll be watching a lot of movies this winter, too.
I think so. Well, remember, we have that private, awesome movie collection that we share on Plex.
Oh, yes. Yes, we do.
Haha, audience, you have to rent them like savages.
Like plebes. All right. So we're both selling out. We're going with the big Hollywood movie, of course.
Of course. Hypothetical.
I got a question.
Hypothetically speaking, of course.
I got a question.
Wow.
I got a motherfucking question.
What if
I have a question for you guys.
you never know, do you? Hypothetically speaking.
I got a question.